Welcome to Just Ecology. So today I want to talk about why plants and fungi are inseparable, and why the more I've learned about these organisms and how they interact, I've come to see it more as a plant-fungi complex more than them being, separate entities alone. So in ecosystems, we essentially, all organisms are connected. There is flow of energy between all species, and even the concept of species is a human construct, something we've come up with, which is really important for us to understand the world and kind of make sense of such a vast diversity and everything going on around us. But there's often, when we start studying ecosystems, where we see interactions occurring between some species, which make it actually quite difficult to tell where one species ends and one starts, or even if it's a whole group of organisms. And I think the way that plants and fungi have formed this relationship is a prime example. So fungi are really interesting because for a long time they were actually grouped within the plant kingdom. But as more was learned about them, they were found to be completely different from plants. Plants have this amazing ability to essentially eat sunlight and convert it into the carbohydrates, the sugars that are the basis for energy and the entire food chain. Whereas fungi cannot photosynthesize. They essentially eat. They go out and feed in the landscape, similar to animals. So they're actually more closely kind of not related, but similar in the way they function to animals than they are to plants. Now, the really interesting thing is that when plants first came onto the land, and this is going back nearly 1 billion years, 1,000 million years ago, when these ancient plants, which were similar to our modern algae, and they were in the oceans, and they had this giant leap where they actually colonized the land. Now it's become to be found that the way they had this great leap that occurred was where they teamed up with the fungi. So the first, those little algae, they didn't actually have all the kind of traits that our plants do now, particularly root systems. Root systems were to come much later. So the algae really needed a lot of, cooperation with other organisms if they were going to successfully colonize the land. And it's actually this partnership between fungi and plants, which occurred way back, nearly 1 billion years ago, when the algae came out of the oceans and came to spread to become all these plants around us today, was from this partnership that was formed. And it has pretty much become more complex and diverse over time and is still with us. So it's estimated that between 90% of plants actually have these what we call mycorrhizal relationships with fungi. And this is where the fungi have these thread-like systems through the soil called the mycorrhiza. And the mycorrhiza actually connect to the plant roots. And this is where it gets really interesting, because the way that they interact together and function is that the plants, as I said, they've got this photosynthesis ability through eating sunlight, converting into sugar, which the fungi don't have. So they actually, in their part of the kind of partnership, are providing the fungi with the sugars that they're getting from converting sunlight. In return, though, that the fungi have this way through the mycorrhizal network of collecting lots of nutrients, that things like nitrogen and phosphorus, which plants are able to collect in some ways, but they can't kind of compare to the way that fungi can gather these nutrients. The mycorrhizal network is so extensive, it's mind-blowing. There's been estimates that if you were to actually gather up all the mycorrhizae and put it into one single thread and make it into a big sheet, it would cover the entire planet. There's so many of these little threads. They're microscopic, and they're going all through the soil, and their ability to collect nutrients is far more enhanced than plants. So they'll actually, through the mycorrhizal network in the soil, the fungi are breaking things down, and they can actually get these nutrients, and they're supplying them to the plants. they've got this really intricate relationship between these two life forms, which is sustaining each other. And you can't really, if you were to take all the fungi out of planet Earth, it's unlikely you'd have, a lot of plant life still surviving. The relationship is so deep. So I really think it's important to see them as entwined as they are. So another really amazing aspect I've learned of recently, there's a book I'll share here called Entangled Life, or it might just be Entangled, by Merlin Sheldrake. And he was talking about these endophytes. And endophytes are little fungi that you actually get in the roots, on the shoots and the leaves of a lot of plants. So these are quite microscopic. They're not the kind of fungi you're used to seeing with the larger kind of fruiting bodies. These are quite small organisms you're getting living on the plants. And the really crazy thing was that they found was that when they swapped the endophytes from different plant species, the whole function of those plants kind of swapped as well. So they'd get, say, a coastal grass and another grass from from inland area. So the coastal grass really was kind of attuned to salty kind of coastal ecosystems, and there was this other grass that was from a much more inland site. When they swapped these endophytes, the fungi growing on the plant, it actually found that the coastal grass could no longer survive in the coastal location, and similar to the other plant species, it wasn't attuned to its local area anymore. So the endophytes are obviously playing this incredible role in enabling plants to grow in the areas where they do. And this goes back once again to these really intricate relationship where the fungi are almost part of the plant, the way they function. So it's really an amazing topic, and I'll be sharing more about how the way that fungi occur in our ecosystems and how they, the major role they play. Because for a long time they've been overlooked and even feared by many people, but they're one of the most important parts of ecology, I think. I mean, all species are just as important, but the way that fungi, the role that they play in their partnership with plants is truly amazing. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Just Ecology. Feel free to share with your friends or subscribe below. Thanks and have a great day.